Joining us right now on the Fan Guest Hotline, powered by Gruber Law, is the one and only Marques Eversoll. You can find him on social media at Marques Eversoll, on Better Call Eversoll on 107.5 The Fan in Green Bay. Not only does he have one of the great names in all of radio with Better Call Eversoll for a show, but he also has the road dog Jesse James introing his show. Marques, I got to ask you to start things off. First of all, welcome. But second of all, if you could only have one, the wonderful name of Better Call Eversoll as the tagline in the title of your show, or road dog bringing you into your show, which one would you rather have?
Well, it would be Road Dog, but it's like you can't have one without the other. Because why would I have Road Dog introduce me without the "you better call Eversoll"? You know what I mean? So you can't have one without the other.
That is true. So you have to have both. It's a package deal. The radio gods have smiled upon you amazingly with those two things. It's always a joy. Whenever I get to come on the show, and I'm actually on the one where the time frame where I get to hear the Better Call Eversoll from Road Dog, it makes me smile every time. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. But Marques, welcome in. I know we've got a lot of Packers stuff to talk about, so we'll start there. I just want to get your takeaways from Packers Colts and what stood out to you and what you really thought was maybe most important from that game.
I think the first takeaway is just the penalties. I mean, it was a pretty frustrating game. I know it's only preseason and there's not too much to take away from these games, but unfortunately, based on how ugly that opener was against the Jets, I think you just went into the second preseason game against the Colts the other day looking for a little cleanup on aisle Packers, like cleanup on aisle penalties. Stop hurting yourselves with the mental errors and pre-snap penalties, alignment penalties. And that just didn't happen. I mean, 11 penalties in the first half. I don't know what the breakdown was as far as when they were, but I swear there were like 7 of the 11 penalties were in the last 5 minutes of the first half. It was just every other play there's a penalty. So that was annoying. Now, good news, they cleaned that up in the second half and only had one accepted penalty, I believe. So overall, I think that was the biggest takeaway, was just the borderline unwatchability and frustrating nature of the penalties. Like, you would think they'll get cleaned up during the season, but this was also kind of a pattern last year too, the mental mistakes and stuff like that. So that's disappointing. I think my most positive takeaway though is Jordan Morgan. Over the last couple of weeks, I mean, Matt LaFleur just said yesterday that that's 100% a competition at left tackle between Jordan Morgan and Rasheed Walker. Up until the last couple of weeks, I'd say, I kind of was of the belief that Jordan Morgan would be a guard until he proves that he's a tackle, even though I know he played tackle in college. Over the last 2 weeks, he has looked like not only a left tackle, he's looked like a good left tackle. He's played whatever it was, 60-some snaps, 38 pass blocking snaps over the 2 preseason games, has not given up a pressure yet. I am cautiously optimistic. I think Jordan Morgan is looking really good.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Just as a heads up, you're cutting out a little bit, Marques, here and there, but I'm right there with you with Jordan Morgan. I think what his ability to now bring is like a true legitimate, I think, starting caliber player on the offensive line gives them so much more depth than I think even they had going in, or at least I'm more confident with the depth of at least the first 6 guys on the team. And as far as the penalties go, I'm willing to give a little bit more accident forgiveness in preseason, kind of like you mentioned, just because you've got guys out there trying to make a name for themselves. They don't want to put some really bad tape. There's probably some nerves that go into this, and it's not exactly a cohesive unit of guys that's going to be playing consistently in the regular season, but it definitely would have given me a little bit more positive vibes if it was almost the opposite, where like the first half you got in there with the guys that are a little bit more established and didn't have a lot of penalties, and then it kind of creeped up a little bit with the third and fourth string guys, but it was kind of the opposite. It did feel like there were a couple things that the NFL was maybe trying to make a point on with some of the illegal procedure stuff and whatever, but yeah, I would like to see it cleaned up this week in that third preseason game. I know the officials are going to be out there for Packers Seahawks joint practice, like the actual officials, so maybe that'll help, but definitely something when you get into Detroit, like little mistakes like that can be extremely costly, and you definitely want to get that cleaned up before that first week of the regular season.
100%, and it's going to be here in a hurry. I mean, we're only a couple weeks away from that season opener, and it feels like they have a lot to clean up, and it's not going to get any easier. I know it's not penalty related necessarily, but with where they're at, missing 5 of the top 6 receivers. I know Jordan Love's expected to practice this week, but clearly, he's not at 100%. The passing game hasn't shown much so far. They do have a lot to clean up before that opener for sure.
Very much so. We're being joined by Marques Eversoll. You can find him on social media at Marques Eversoll and Better Call Eversoll on 107.5 The Fan in Green Bay. Let's talk about some of the injuries that also could affect Green Bay in week one. It's unfortunately getting to be quite the laundry list of injuries, Marcus, including MarShawn Lloyd, who just unfortunately has not been able to stay healthy at all for literally any period of time. And this just adds another injury to his resume. He now has some hamstring tightness. It sounds like per Matt LaFleur, he's going to miss some time. What kind of concerns you most about this injury list right now?
Well, I mean, I think Saturday was the most MarShawn Lloyd experience ever. And I'm not trying to make a joke out of it or anything, but he shows flashes every opportunity that he gets, and yet every opportunity that he gets, he winds up getting hurt. And it's so unfortunate for a guy who's worked so hard, showed up in great shape, did everything he had to do, went down to Madison to figure out the soft tissue stuff, and unfortunately, yet another injury. But in the midst of it all, that wheel route down the sideline was awesome. He had the Texas route earlier in the game, I think on the first possession, where Malik Willis just missed him. But that's the kind of stuff we see in practice all the time. And I think we were talking after one play last week where he's the kind of guy where, I think it was Brenton Cox on the left side of the offensive line, right side of the defense, blew up a play, got 3 yards penetration in the backfield. MarShawn Lloyd has a handoff to that side of the field off tackle. He bounces it to the other side for what looked like a chunk play, but you're kind of programmed to think, well, in a game, he's blown up behind the line of scrimmage because they're not tackling. You just kind of you stop there. With MarShawn Lloyd, he has the kind of skill set. I don't know that would have been stuffed in the backfield. That certainly wasn't because he bounced it to the other side. You see that change of direction and that change of pace in games and every opportunity that he gets. That's why it's so enticing, the idea of Josh Jacobs and MarShawn Lloyd in the same backfield together. It's the stereotypical thunder and lightning dynamic. I mean, it sounds awesome. And then he gets hurt, and it just happens all the time. I hate the term injury prone because I think a lot of times people just use it the wrong way. It insinuates that someone's soft or they're not doing what they can or they're made of glass or whatever people want to say. Whatever it is, I don't know. MarShawn Lloyd has had really, really bad luck with injuries, and I got to believe if we're seeing it, Andy, every day in practice, every time that he's actually able to practice, the coaches have seen more of it, and I'm not saying they're spending too much time, adding pages to the playbook specifically for MarShawn Lloyd, but there's got to be some element to that because he just brings a different dynamic to that room. So it's unfortunate for him. I hope he's back, but he's the ultimate kind of guy where he makes you hold your breath every time he has the ball for multiple reasons. One, because he could take it the distance every time he touches the ball. And two, you just hold your breath because you hope he stays healthy by the end of the play.
Yeah, I was talking about that same thing earlier of this is maybe the player the most where every time he touches the ball, I'm like, oh my God, please don't get hurt. Please don't get hurt. But also at the same time, it's the other side's oh my God, please don't take it the distance. Please don't take it the distance. He has that ability. And it's just so unfortunate because even last year when Green Bay was having some struggles with, kind of creating some of the dynamic plays down the field, Matt LaFleur was asked about it. And he actually, unprompted, brought up MarShawn Lloyd as a player that they were missing, that they were counting on to be an explosive playmaker for them. And they didn't have him out there, which was, they even at that time felt like was detrimental to the team. He anytime you can get explosive playmakers out on the field, it helps your team tremendously. He is one of those, and just not being able to even remotely use him so far has been disappointing, would be a vast understatement. Hopefully this is it, Marcus. This is the last one, and we can talk about a very fruitful career for MarShawn Lloyd from here on out. I'm with you, steadfastly when it comes to the injury-prone conversation, but it also has that layman cliche, the best ability is availability. Doesn't matter if you've got a 4.1 40 or you have the greatest hands in the history of the world or the most explosive dynamic playmaking. If you're in the tub or you're on the bench, it doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot. And right now, MarShawn Lloyd's got to find a way to get out on the field to be able to be an impact player for this team, and it just has not gone that way for him so far. Going back to, I know you mentioned Jordan Morgan a little bit ago. I want to just go back to the offensive line for a moment. Anthony Belton is kind of now the latest in that conversation of all right, what is he going to be? Is he going to be a guard or is he going to be a tackle? What can he bring to the table? It's been really fun, Marcus, to watch him out there and make some of these big time pancake level blocks and just kind of move people into oblivion. But at the same time, 5 penalties in a quarter also stands out for not exactly the right reasons either. What's your take on Anthony Belton so far and what he can hopefully bring to this team, at least in the long term?
I just get the sense that this is going to be a blip on the radar, and that a few years from now we're going to be looking back at. Do you remember that rookie year, his second preseason game, when he had like 5 penalties in the first half? Ha ha, that was funny. Because like these are things that are correctable. It doesn't make it any easier to swallow if you're the head coach. Hence why you saw him red in the face, just reaming him out, headed into the locker room. Like you got to coach him up, but these things are correctable. You can't necessarily teach a 6'6", 330-pound dude to just bury people in the ground in the run game. He has that. So whether it's, LaFleur suggested that maybe it had to do with the guards, that they might need to move their guards up a little bit because the tackles line up accordingly to the guards. So maybe that's part of it. But either way, I mean, 4, if not all 5 of his penalties were avoidable, just mental lapses or lapses in judgment, whatever. I had to laugh because I had posted on Facebook on our station page about the penalties in the first half, and Anthony Belton had 5 of them, and a couple of them were like, well, at least now they can probably stash him on the practice squad or something like that. I'm like, no, okay, let's not. He's a second-round pick. He's not going anywhere. He's going to be one of their top 7 linemen, no doubt about it, at worst. He's, unfortunately, if usually injuries happen on the O-line, he'll probably be called upon to play. I'm not overly concerned about it. It was bad. I mean, you don't want the penalties. It was bad, but he does certain things that you can't teach, and I'm still high on Anthony Belton.
Very much so, and you could not have said it better. Some of the things that he's doing out there, I think, like you said, we're going to look back and be like, yeah, all the signs were there for him to be a potential dominant offensive lineman in this league. Just have to round out the edges and make sure that some of those things where, the demeanor is such a good thing when he's blocking players into the ground, but you also don't want it to happen after the whistle. I'd rather have him have that demeanor and kind of calm it down than the other way around where he just doesn't have that. And, some of the pre-snap stuff is pretty correctable, but just technique and making smart decisions, the football IQ stuff, you get that stuff down and he has every, unteachable trait that you could possibly want and just a different flavor of offensive lineman than they've had on that line. And I think that can be very advantageous as well. A couple other questions with Marcus before we get out of here. You can follow him on at Marques Eversoll on social media, Better Call Eversoll on 107.5 The Fan in Green Bay. I got to ask you, I know the Trey Hendrickson trade, the news came out again that he is on the trade block. Have you spent the weekend putting together your fantasy Trey Hendrickson and Micah Parsons trades for Green Bay?
I have not. I'm intrigued. I mean, more intrigued by the rumor from the Twitter dog about Micah Parsons, because I feel like if that really happened, I put the probability at 1% that Parsons actually gets traded. It's so funny nowadays, by the way, whenever a star player requests a trade, everybody's reaction's like, oh, okay, that's cute. Well, talk to me when you're playing for your current team in week 1. Like, nobody expects it to happen. But, like, if there's anybody that might do something that crazy, maybe it's Jerry Jones. Again, I'd put the probability at very, very low, but if all of a sudden they shocked the NFL world and actually did move Micah Parsons, I think our reaction would be, well, only Jerry would do something like that for whatever reason. And if he really wants out, which he does, I mean, that's true. He formally requested a trade a while back. Still think he goes back to Dallas. But all 31 teams should at least have an offer in on Micah Parsons. He is one of the best players in the NFL, regardless of position. And same kind of thing for Trey Hendrickson. I know he's older, clearly not as versatile, maybe not as explosive as Micah Parsons, but Trey Hendrickson's an absolute stud. I think the Bengals made a huge mistake by paying – like T. Higgins is a great player. Obviously, Jamar Chase is a great player. But within the last year, they paid Joe Burrow his extension. They extend Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and now they're kind of like, well, we don't know if we can afford Trey Hendrickson. Wait a second. Your biggest problem has been defense. You got one of the best defensive players in the NFL on your team. Pay that guy, and maybe don't pay the luxury of having a number 2 receiver in T. Higgins, number 1 wide receiver money. It doesn't make sense to me, but again, that's what dumb organizations do, and the Bengals are not exactly a well-oiled machine. Look, if you said, would I like to see Micah Parsons or Trey Hendrickson on the Packers? Yes, 100%. I'd love to see both of them on the team. I feel like the probability is very low based on the timing here. maybe if it happened at the start of the offseason and you plan accordingly. I guess if you're really looking at a trade package for either one of them, it would probably include sending a pass rusher the other way, maybe a Rashawn Gary to, I don't know, take some of the burden off or replace some of what the trading team loses. So don't think it's going to happen, but if it's a question as simple as, do you want to see Micah Parsons or Trey Hendrickson on the Green Bay Packers? Yeah, sign me up. I want both of them.
Just go out and trade for both. I think that's probably the right answer to this equation for sure. You said 1% chance that Micah Parsons gets traded. If I told you he did get traded, what % chance do you think that would be to the Green Bay Packers?
I would say, like, I'm going to go as high as 20%. Look, I don't think there's that many. I feel like it would have to be a team that could justify taking a big swing. And look, I can't help but think, what would this have been now? 7 years ago, the Khalil Mack trade, the Packers were right there, and the Raiders took the Bears offer over the Packers offer. Goody's not afraid. Like, I know we all laugh when we hear about how Goody's in on every conversation, and then they don't wind up with the player. If Micah Parsons is going to get traded, I would be surprised if the Packers aren't at least in the conversation for real, though. Not just in the conversation, ha, 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 always the bridesmaid, never the bride type thing. But if it's real, I think Goody will definitely make a competitive offer if he hasn't already.
So you're telling me there's a 20% chance of a 1% chance. My back of the napkin math tells me that's a 0.2% chance that Micah Parsons is a Green Bay Packer. That feels right about right. I think that's probably right about the number, a 0.2% chance that Micah Parsons ends up in Green Bay. All right, last but not least, your number 3 quarterback battle, Marcus. Pick your poison. You want Taylor Algersma, Sean Clifford, and I'll let you choose other if you would like other as well.
I mean, I would love to choose Vince Young if we could go back 12 years, because that would be just riveting. But right now, I mean, obviously you don't want either of them playing for you in an actual game. But right now, I still have to give the nod to Clifford. I know Algersma showed some things the other day. I thought overall I was kind of looking forward to seeing him throw downfield a little more this summer. We haven't necessarily seen that at all. He showed more of it the other night than he had in practice altogether, probably. It showed some good things, but I think his head's clearly swimming right now. Like, his internal clock, it's just the game's moving so fast for him. He's a guy who played 12-man football in Canada on a bigger field, so in some ways it almost is like a different sport. You can just see Sean Clifford so much more comfortable. Again, you don't want either of them playing. I don't think you're confident in either Clifford or Algersma leading the charge if something happened to both Love and Willis. But right now I think it's, I don't know, minus 400, fairly favorable in Sean Clifford's favor, I would say.
Just looking at how they both run the offenses, it certainly would go in Clifford's favor. I'm more maybe subscribed to the Indianapolis Colts view of, like, if you get to that point, you're probably screwed anyway. So just give me the player with a little bit more upside. And that way I might go with Algersma just because of that. But I could easily see them just like this is one of those classic conversations of, like, if it's a Goody decision, he probably wants Algersma. If it's a LaFleur decision, he probably wants Sean Clifford. And then you just see, like, who ultimately wins that battle at the end of the day. Either way, that should be probably just a practice squad decision, not an active 53 decision. Marcus, I cannot thank you enough for coming on and joining us for a few minutes here. Where can we find all of your incredible work? What do you got cooking today on Better Call Eversoll?
Obviously, recap that preseason opener, talk about that preseason opener, second preseason game, and look back at that Brewers 14-game winning streak and all the memorable moments of that. I mean, it was just awesome. And, yeah, a lot of stuff to recap and preview here on a Monday.
Well, I will be there to talk to you on your show as well. Looking forward to that. We will all follow you over on social media at Marques Eversoll. Marcus, I cannot thank you enough, and we'll talk to you again really soon. All
right. Sounds good, Andy. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you as well. Thank you to Marcus again for joining us on the Fan Guest Hotline, powered by Gruber Law. One call, that's all. This has been, or I should say, this is the Pack-A-Day Radio Show. We still got a full segment left, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this.